If you're over 60 and you've noticed your memory slipping, your focus becoming foggier, or your thoughts feeling slower than they used to, I want you to understand something important. Your brain is not failing. It's starving. Not starving for calories or sugar, but starving for the very thing it is made of: healthy fats and protective oils. Most people don't realize this, but the human brain is nearly 60% fat, and as we age, the brain's natural fat supply becomes damaged, oxidized, or simply depleted. That's when the memory problems begin. The moments of, what was I going to say? The names we can't recall, the conversations we forget, the mental fatigue halfway through the day. These are not random signs of aging. They are nutrient deficiency signals. For decades, seniors were told to avoid fats and oils to protect the heart. But no one explained what that did to the brain. When we remove the right oils from the diet, the brain loses the fuel it needs for thinking, remembering, learning, and clarity. I've worked with hundreds of older adults who believed they were losing their intelligence, when all they were losing was cellular lubrication inside the brain. Here is the truth most people never hear. The brain does not run on protein. The brain does not run on carbs. The brain runs on fats, especially oils rich in omega-3s, antioxidants, and anti-inflammatory compounds. And when those oils are missing, the brain becomes inflamed, the neurons fire more slowly, and the memory centers begin to shrink. That is when forgetfulness appears, not because a person is old, but because the brain is drying out chemically. If you've ever felt, checkmark, I walk into a room and forget what I came for. I can't remember names like I used to. Checkmark. My thoughts feel slower, like I'm thinking through fog. I lose focus halfway through a task. Checkmark. My mind gets tired even when my body isn't tired. Then you are feeling the effects of brain undernourishment, not brain aging. The good news is this: just as the joints can be lubricated, the brain can be refueled, but only with the right oils. Not vegetable oils, not cooking oils, not low-fat diets, but specific oils that contain lipids the brain knows how to use to repair neurons, rebuild memory pathways, and increase mental clarity. In this video, I'm going to walk you through the 3 most powerful natural oils for brain health after 60, starting with the one that gives gentle improvement, and ending with the one that has been shown in studies to reverse cognitive decline, improve memory speed, and increase mental focus in seniors. These oils are not exotic, not expensive, not supplements in pill form. They are real foods, oils you can add to breakfast, take by spoon, or include in meals. And they work because they feed the brain directly, not indirectly, through vitamins or digestive conversion. So before we begin, remember this: you don't lose memory because of age. You lose memory because the brain stops getting what it needs to stay sharp. And the moment you restore the right oils, the brain begins to wake up again, not in months, but in days and weeks. Number 3, extra virgin olive oil. The anti-inflammatory oil that shields memory and protects aging brain cells. When I first began working with older adults who were struggling with memory decline, mental fatigue, and slow thinking, I used to focus mainly on supplements and brain exercises. But the more patients I saw, the clearer it became. Memory loss doesn't start in the brain. It starts in the blood vessels and in the foods that either protect or damage those brain cells. That is why one of the very first questions I now ask is, are you using real extra virgin olive oil every single day? Because after decades of research, it is no longer a theory. It is a documented fact. People who consume extra virgin olive oil daily have better cognitive function, sharper memory, and significantly lower rates of dementia and Alzheimer's disease. Not because of magic, not because of genetics, but because olive oil is one of the few foods that actually enters the bloodstream and protects the brain from inflammation and oxidative stress. Most people think memory loss is caused by getting old, but the real cause is brain inflammation. A silent, slow-building inflammation that destroys neurons year after year until thinking becomes foggy, names become harder to recall, and the brain begins to lose its ability to store and retrieve information. And here's what most seniors were never told. You cannot fix an inflamed brain with willpower. You cannot fix it with puzzles, books, or good intentions. The brain needs fuel, protection, and cellular repair, and olive oil provides all three. Real extra virgin olive oil is rich in polyphenols, plant compounds that do for the brain what antioxidants do for the heart and skin. These polyphenols do something incredibly important after age 60. They stop the brain rusting process that comes from stress, inflammation, and toxin buildup. Olive oil also contains a fat called oleic acid, which is one of the same fats found in healthy brain cell membranes. This means the brain recognizes it, absorbs it, and uses it for repair. That's why seniors who eat olive oil regularly don't just protect memory. They often report better mood, less anxiety, and clearer thinking. Researchers at the University of Temple found that olive oil not only preserves memory, but reduces plaque formation in the brain, the same plaques linked to Alzheimer's. Another study found that seniors who replaced vegetable oils with olive oil had faster memory recall and better verbal fluency within just 6 to 12 weeks. This is why I tell my patients, you don't need a brain supplement when your brain's natural supplement is sitting in your kitchen. You do not need to drink olive oil or take shots of it. You need 1 to 2 tablespoons per day, used in its natural, uncooked form. Once it is heated to high temperatures, the structure changes and most of the brain protective nutrients are lost. The best way to use it: drizzle on salads, vegetables, soups, or cooked meals after cooking. Add to yogurt, cottage cheese, or oatmeal. Mix into hummus, mashed avocado, or tuna salad. Take 1 spoon straight in the morning, if preferred. Many seniors do. But the most important rule is this: if the oil is not real extra virgin, it will not help your brain. Over half of the olive oils sold in grocery stores are blended with cheap seed oils like soybean or canola, oils that destroy brain health. The right olive oil should be checkmark dark or deep green gold in color, slightly bitter or peppery in taste. Bitterness equals high polyphenols. Stored in a dark glass bottle, labeled extra virgin, first cold pressed. Harvest or expiration date printed, not just a best before date. If it tastes like nothing, looks pale, or pours like thin water, it's not medicine. Real olive oil is food, fuel, and neuroprotection in one. I give this oil first to seniors who say, I forget what I'm saying halfway through a sentence. My mind feels slower than my body. I used to multitask. Now I get overwhelmed. I'm worried about dementia. It runs in my family. And especially to those who have chronic inflammation, high cholesterol or blood sugar, diets high in processed foods, histories of stroke, heart disease, or memory decline. Because the truth is this: the aging brain doesn't just need oxygen. It needs protection from inflammation and oxidation. And olive oil is one of the only foods that can do both. Number 2, omega-3, rich algae or fish oil, the brain-building oil that restores memory pathways after 60. Now that we've covered an oil that protects the brain, it's time to move into an oil that actually rebuilds the brain. One that supplies the exact raw material your neurons need to fire signals, store memories, and keep your thinking sharp. If olive oil is the armor that shields the brain from damage, omega-3 oil is the actual construction material the brain is made from. Because here's something most people don't know. Your brain is made of fat. Not just any fat, but a very specific kind called DHA, a form of omega-3 fatty acid. When DHA levels fall, memory slows down, learning declines, and the brain begins to shrink. After age 60, DHA levels drop fastest, unless you replace them intentionally through diet. Most people have heard of omega-3s, but they don't truly understand them. Omega-3s are not supplements for joints or just something good for the heart. They are the literal building blocks of memory, recall, mood, and mental clarity. Every time you remember a name, solve a problem, or learn something new, your brain is using DHA to form connections called synapses. Without DHA, those connections weaken. And that's when forgetfulness appears. And here's the most important part. The body cannot produce DHA on its own. You must eat it, or the brain slowly drains its own supply until cognitive decline begins. This is why I put omega-3 oil as oil number 2. Once a senior reaches 60, omega-3 deficiency is no longer a possibility. It is almost guaranteed unless the person is eating fatty fish 3 to 4 times a week or supplementing with true omega-3 oil. Research from Harvard, the NIH, and neurological studies across Europe all point to the same conclusion. Seniors with higher DHA levels have better memory, faster recall, sharper mental speed, and lower risk of dementia. Seniors with low omega-3 levels have more brain shrinkage, more inflammation, and higher rates of depression and cognitive decline. DHA is highest in healthy young brains and lowest in aging or Alzheimer's brains. There is a reason neurologists now call DHA liquid brain nutrition. It is not a vitamin. It is not a stimulant. It is a structural nutrient, like calcium is to bone. DHA is to the brain. There are 2 main sources: fish oil, from salmon, sardines, anchovies, etc. Algae oil, the same omega-3 fish get it from, but plant-based and cleaner. Both work, but only if they contain high DHA, not just omega-3 in general. Most low-grade fish oils contain mostly EPA, which is anti-inflammatory, but the brain only builds itself with DHA. The right oil should have at least 300 to 500 milligrams of DHA per serving. No soybean or seed oil mixed in. No artificial flavoring, coloring, or proprietary blends. A fresh, non-fishy smell. Fishy equals rancid equals useless for the brain. If a senior tells me, "I tried fish oil and didn't feel anything," it's because they took a cheap oil with low DHA, and the brain never received the fuel it needed. The research-based dose is 600 to 1,000 milligrams of DHA per day, not 1,000 milligrams fish oil. That is mostly filler. DHA content matters. When seniors take the right dose consistently, the changes don't take years. They often appear in 3 to 6 weeks. Clearer thinking in the morning, less mental fatigue in the afternoon, improved recall of names and details, better emotional stability and reduced anxiety, sharper conversation flow, words come faster, less tip-of-the-tongue moments. I've seen patients in their late 70s and early 80s regain noticeable clarity, not because the brain magically regenerated, but because the wiring finally had the fat it needed to rebuild. This oil is critical for seniors who say, "I feel like I'm thinking through fog. I forget conversations I had recently. I used to be sharp. Now I feel mentally slow. I lose track of what I was doing halfway through tasks. My mind gets tired even when my body isn't tired." And especially for those who rarely eat fish, ate a low-fat diet for years, took statins long-term, they deplete brain fats, have depression, anxiety, or emotional swings, have family history of dementia or memory loss, because every single one of those situations drains DHA from the brain, and nothing replaces it except omega-3 oil. Memory loss does not begin when symptoms show. It begins 10 to 20 years before symptoms show, when the brain quietly loses the fats that maintain its structure. By the time someone says, "I'm starting to forget things," the DHA deficiency has already been happening for years. That is why this oil is not optional. It is foundational brain fuel. If olive oil protects the brain, omega-3 oil rebuilds it. Number 1. MCT oil, the fastest brain fuel for immediate clarity, focus, and mental energy after 60. We've talked about oils that protect the brain and oils that rebuild the brain, but now we've reached the most powerful one, the oil that can wake up the brain, even in seniors who feel mentally slow, tired, foggy, or unable to focus. This is the oil I use for older adults who say things like, "I feel like my brain is slowing down. I can't think clearly in the morning. I start the day already tired mentally. My thoughts are not as fast as they used to be." That oil is MCT oil, not coconut oil in general, not cooking oil, but medium-chain triglyceride oil, a purified form of the most brain-active fats found inside coconuts. Why do I put this as oil number 1, the strongest? Because unlike olive oil or omega-3 oil, which repair the brain slowly over time, MCT oil fuels the brain immediately. It bypasses normal digestion, goes straight to the liver, and turns into ketones, the alternate fuel source the brain uses when glucose can't reach the neurons effectively. And that is the key. After 60, the brain begins to lose its ability to use glucose, blood sugar, as a fuel source. That is why so many seniors feel mentally tired even after eating. The problem is not food. The problem is brain energy access. The brain is alive, but starving. MCT oil fixes that by giving the brain a direct, fast, clean fuel supply. No sugar spikes, no crashes, no caffeine needed. That's why seniors report things like, check mark. My mind feels awake again. I can focus longer without strain. Check mark. I don't feel as mentally drained in the afternoon. Check mark. My brain feels sharper, like it turned back on. Younger brains can burn glucose easily. Older brains cannot. This is one of the early drivers of dementia, not just neuron loss, but energy starvation in the brain. When neurons cannot access fuel, they begin to shut down. When neurons receive fuel again, they become active, alive, and responsive. MCT oil produces ketones, and ketones feed the brain even when glucose cannot. This is why MCT oil is now being studied in Alzheimer's and memory decline, early cognitive impairment, post-stroke recovery, senior brain fatigue, neurological inflammation. Because it doesn't just support the brain, it awakens the brain. MCT oil is tasteless, odorless, and almost completely invisible in food. You can add 1 teaspoon to 1 tablespoon to morning coffee or tea, smoothies or oatmeal, yogurt, soups, or simply take it by spoon. Start with 1 teaspoon per day and slowly increase. Too much too fast can upset digestion. Within 20 to 30 minutes, many seniors feel a noticeable lift in mental clarity, something no supplement or vitamin can create that quickly. And unlike sugar or caffeine, MCT oil does not crash, overstimulate, or raise blood pressure. It simply fuels the brain the way aging neurons now prefer. This oil is especially helpful if you forget what you were saying mid-sentence, wake up groggy and mentally slow, feel afternoon brain fog or fatigue, struggle with focus or mental stamina, have prediabetes, insulin resistance, or high sugar levels, have family history of dementia or cognitive decline. Because guess what? The same cells that struggle to take in glucose also struggle to store memory. Give them fuel, and they function again. MCT oil is not a stimulant, not a drug, not a trick. It is a brain energy delivery system that bypasses the problem older adults silently develop: glucose resistance in the brain. So now you know the 3 most powerful natural brain oils after 60, each one serving a different purpose. Extra virgin olive oil protects the brain from inflammation and oxidation. Omega-3 DHA oil rebuilds memory pathways and supports neuron structure. MCT oil feeds the brain instantly, restores clarity, sharpens focus, boosts energy. These are not trends. These are not supplements invented last year. These are biological essentials, the same fats the brain was built from, runs on, and repairs itself with. And here is the real truth. Memory loss is not normal aging. It is nutrient loss. Brain fog is not just getting older. It is fuel shortage. Slow thinking is not a personality change. It is brain dehydration and fat deficiency. You do not lose memory because of age. You lose memory because the brain stops getting what it needs to stay alive, active, and connected. And the moment you restore the right oils, the brain fights for itself. It repairs. It rewires. It wakes back up. You cannot think your way out of memory decline. You cannot try harder to stay sharp. But you can feed the brain, protect the brain, and energize the brain. And when you do, the mind starts returning to you. You are not losing yourself. Your brain is just waiting for fuel. And now, you finally know what it needs.